they wanted to touch the bare minimum on the ground, right, for the on Coney Island site. So this was exactly what they wanted to do here. So they call these the bamboo towers, and they wanted them to touch the minimum on the floor as possible. So you would see here that those circles are actually the podium or the base of the towers. So they decide to elevate everything. And they use for design Rhino Grasshopper to test what are the areas that are more suitable to implement these towers without having big amounts of landfill. So you see on the right, they're creating the Rhino script, the Grasshopper script. On the left is generating the buildings in Rhino. Okay, so this is pretty much the end result. You have on top the script that was generating the towers. This might look a very complex spaghetti, but once you get into this, it's you start understanding the relationship, and you can see that those are actually different towers. The script for each different tower, they all have different programs, and on the bottom you have the result that came out to ArchiCAD. Another worry that they had was the view quality, so they wanted to do some view analysis, so using other plugins for Grasshopper, I think in this case Ladybug, they managed to check from a certain tower on each floor what was the amount of views that they would have without having other towers obstructing it. So this would give them access to how much should each unit or each apartment cost based on the quality of the views that they would have. Again, by having this inside ArchiCAD as a build tool, you can extract the area quantities, all the data that is generating from your model. You can see that we have units that are smaller, units that are bigger, you have facilities. Then you can get the feedback of the total area for your towers and the feedback that you have for each unit to see if that is according to the brief. You will have to do something similar to this for your competition because you have different types of spaces and you need to have a ratio of these spaces. So let's say working spaces, you need 30%. So you will need to get something like this so you then can calculate the ratios. If you just draw by hand, then you change and then, oh, how do I know if I have enough area or if this area is correct proportionally? We'll go through that on the hands-on workshop. Then you can further detail your design. You see from here, you can subdivide your towers into different units, get again all the areas from it. Even documenting, this is using the 3D document. I will also teach you how to do this because especially for manufacturing, you need to detail quite well how the elements are turning out. And in terms of results, you can see on the right side we have some renderings, on the left side some sketches of what they wanted to come out with, and I would say it's pretty much in line with what they wanted. And this is the final render of the towers on site. I think unfortunately the little one was a bigger, more massive building that won the competition. Okay, another thing that is very important is especially for constructability, is the way how the different building parts connect. So when you have a wall intersecting with a slab, for example, a wall is not just one material and a slab is also not just one material. So with ArchiCAD we have this priority-based connections where you can see that different building materials, they will stop or they will continue according to their priority. So in this next example, you will see, for example, if a wall is a stock partition, it will have less priority. So when we model it and it touches the ground, it will only deduct the finish of the floor. It has more priority than the suspended ceiling, so it will go through up to the concrete. And the same thing with this wall here. You see, even though it's modeled all the way up to, whenever the brick meets the concrete, it will stop because the concrete is stronger than the brick. So basically with this kind of solutions, you see that your documentation is actually a lot more automated, because instead of you having to go and stop seeing where different building materials would end, ArchiCAD will do that for you. So this results in more optimized BIM documentation. Then you can see all the drawings are generated directly from the model. So you might look at this and think that this had to be created by a 2D drafting tool. Even more detailed, more elaborated drawings. Even if you have, let's say 90% of your drawing comes out from the model, but then you have a detail that comes from the manufacturer, let's say for the window, or for the window casing, or for the engine, for that sliding glass door. You can actually just take that and put it in your model there. You don't need to model the engine for the glass door, for example. Then you can also get schedules directly automated from this. Let's say you're going to manufacture all the windows before they're brought to site and before they're installed there, and you have many different types of windows. You can actually get a schedule with all the dimensions and with all the window types to send to the manufacturer. Okay. So this is some of the drawings that can be generated from ArchiCAD. Another thing is, instead of you having to go to Photoshop to put the shadows on it, or to do the Photoshop plans with all the different materials, you can actually do it directly in ArchiCAD. You just need to choose what are the colors and what is the direction for the sun and all these sorts of stuff. But it's pretty much built in by default. So you see the drawings look actually quite good. Again, we have another 3D document here. So sometimes a plan or a section might not be the best way to document a project or to explain how a certain part of the building works. So you can see here that they document the entrance, they document a couple of units, they show how the facade and how the verandas of the building are built, or the balconies. And you can label directly here in the 3D document. So this was the example I was telling you about. Actually, these renders were not done directly in ArchiCAD, but the model was exported from ArchiCAD. They render in a third-party software, and then they bring the renderings back into ArchiCAD, and they assemble the layout with a floor plan view and with a 3D that shows how the design turns out to be. So these are some of the final renders for it. As I mentioned, we have the Cine Render built in ArchiCAD. This is one example of what can be produced directly from ArchiCAD. Even the grass effect, we can do it. We have built in over 250 materials that you can use inside ArchiCAD. Even if you want to get more materials and generate your own, you can also do that. So I would say the results, in my opinion, are pretty acceptable. So these are some other examples of it. One more, another interior rendering. Okay, so this next video I'll show you is to show you how we can connect and mark up existing drawings. So with ArchiCAD we can export
this video demonstrates the PDF-based collaboration workflow between
documented
ArchiCAD
in other
and
tools like Bluebeam.
This feature, available in ArchiCAD 21's update, ensures a comprehensive link between the disciplines. Previously, all redlining was made on delivered prints or on digital PDF files, and had to be entered into ArchiCAD manually, drastically increasing the possibility of errors and information loss. This solution allows streamlined communication and collaboration, which happens right on the digital deliverables, even in the case of disciplines that are not necessarily linked to a BIM platform. Thanks to the reviewer, all markup entries will be imported automatically as individual ArchiCAD markup entries and positioned accurately according to the original drawings. The Bluebeam Reviewer tool introduces a simple palette which contains the commands that are most commonly used during the review process. To illustrate this feature, let's publish this ArchiCAD project documentation in PDF format and send it to the project management team. The one-button publishing wizard on the Bluebeam connection palette will enable us to quickly assemble the documentation for export in PDF format. The project managers coordinate the different disciplines. They use Bluebeam Review to open and add their redlining to the documentation. They then save and send the documentation back for revision by the architect. Let's use the Bluebeam palette again to start re-importing and managing the markups from the documentation. There are several options available when importing markups from a modified PDF. We can assign the revisions to different styles and change the attribute handling on the go. ArchiCAD instantly recognizes all drawings and layouts that contain markups. After opening the markup palette in ArchiCAD, we can use filtering options to simultaneously read and toggle between inputs coming from different sources or different issues. ArchiCAD's new Bluebeam Reviewer tool significantly improves collaboration between architects, engineers, and other project stakeholders by providing a seamless connection to Bluebeam's popular design reviewing workflows.
Okay, so you see that with this, again, if you're working with somebody that is, only knows how to do markups in a PDF, you can actually, with these live connections, you can actually send them the drawings. They will annotate it, hey, change this, change that. Imagine you're working with a specialist that is a lighting specialist that is telling you where you should put the lights for your project, and then he will send it to you, but he only works in PDF. So with this way, you can bring in the information to your drawings directly. So this brings us to the part of OpenBIM and integration with further tools. So using this OpenBIM approach, you can see that we can bring in drawings into ArchiCAD, say in DWG, in PDF. You can bring in geometry or objects that were done in 3D Studio Max. If you find IFC related information, you can also plug it into ArchiCAD. If you've done some part of your model in SketchUp, just bring it back. And then you can also export it out for different purposes. Let's say you want to render it in other tools, or even you want to export to BIMX to present. So now this is the part that I will show you and focus a bit on BIMX. Once we go to the hands-on session, I'll let you play with it and figure out a bit how it works. But this has been a tool that has been constantly appraised by our clients and users because it's really fun and interactive to use, and it can have a very wide approach in the industry. So even if you're working in a consultant, or if you're the client, you're the contractor, or even if you're the owner, you can actually have all this. So what this allows you is to have all the BIM model, all the BIM data within one device that then you can manipulate just by using your fingers, and you can check the drawings, you can check the information, you can check all the different parameters of the building parts. So now let's see how this works. I have here a video that explains how this can be used.
Interactive design presentations on the fly. Thanks to the new presenter feature of BIMX Pro, architects and clients can all enjoy a super easy to use design pitch experience on iOS and Android devices. BIMX hypermodels incorporate 3D building views and 2D documentation sets while also providing an intuitive, game-like viewing experience on tablets and smartphones. Using the presenter feature in BIMX Pro, handpick the most expressive 3D views and walkthroughs, and organize these into a presentation set that makes it super easy to deliver design ideas to anyone. A BIMX presentation set may contain any model view in a gallery created previously in the ArchiCAD project, or it can be defined directly on the mobile device on the Favorites tab. This includes not only plans and sections, but also detailed drawings, interior elevations, or even construction details on layouts. You can easily tailor these views according to any audience by reordering or hiding certain elements. Take BIMX with you to your next project management or client meeting. Make an instant impression anywhere you go. Just use the arrow buttons to hover between the predefined views in an exciting animated style. Need to zoom in or out on important detail? Step in and out of the presentation views? BIMX will find the way back to the next view. Besides one-on-one project discussions, the BIMX presenter is also an excellent choice for pitching design ideas to a bigger audience. When wirelessly connected to a TV screen or projector at an event or meeting, BIMX presenters' animated project views run in slideshow mode, giving you the opportunity to walk around, engage with the audience, and further articulate the ideas behind the work. BIMX makes architectural design presentations a walk in the park. Bring an engaging experience to the table with the help of BIMX today.
Okay, so I think this is pretty clear of what can be done here. Now I'll go back again to what is OpenBIM, and I will showcase you a case study of how this was implemented very widely. But first I want to show you how we can get content with this, with ArchiCAD. So let's say you want to get furniture, or you want to get vegetation, or whatever it is for your model. ArchiCAD comes in more than 10,000 built-in objects, and each of these objects, they actually have many different variations. So if you choose, let's say,